Hey, what's up, weebs? Spoilers for Lycoris Recoil episode 13 up ahead, so turn back now if you must. Also a disclaimer. Majima is an extremely complex character, and I don't claim to understand him perfectly. I am only trying to make sense of his actions and motivations. Okay, so today I want to talk about Majima's favorite word.
バランス取らなきゃな。バランスが取れねえ。バランスを取らバランスを取る。バランスだからでアンバランスな世のバランスを取ってはバランスがのバランスを取りも
So what exactly is this freak talking about? I wasn't sure myself until the finale during Majima's break time conversation with Chisato, in which he specifically says he is attempting to restore the balance of Japan by helping the weaker side. Now, this is a reference to a theory called the balance of power, which basically says that the best way to achieve peace is to have everyone and everything be at an equal level of power. Because whenever there's an imbalance of power, there will often be a misuse of power by the stronger side to bully the weaker side. And we can see examples of this everywhere in the real world, such as dictators with absolute power oppressing their own people, large, powerful countries that try to force their will on smaller countries when it suits their interests. Rich and powerful people that can sometimes bend the law and exert influence over commoners. Multi-billion corporations and monopolies that bully smaller businesses and people. And even down to just the minor bullies and criminals we see every day. And because these imbalances lead to abuse of power and injustice, we try to correct them when we can. Or, as Majima would say it, restore the balance. When there is a relatively even balance of power, bullying and aggression become too risky and unprofitable for the parties involved, leading to peaceful coexistence. So how do we counter these power imbalances in the real world? Potential dictators are counterbalanced by a healthy governing institution with proper checks and balances and constitutions that limit the government's power. This ensures their power can't be misused to oppress their people. Large, dangerous countries are countered by alliances and coalitions among the smaller countries. For example, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was initially founded as a counter to the Soviet Union when it was at the height of its power, is now countering the Russia-Ukraine power imbalance by supplying Ukraine with weapons, materials, and volunteers. The rich and powerful of society are balanced by a hopefully non-corrupt justice system that treats everyone equally, which is often represented by the symbol of a blindfolded arbiter of justice with a balancing scale. Corporations are kept in check by anti-monopoly laws that ensure a healthy, even playing field for competitors in the industry. And finally, common criminal activity is countered by police and law enforcement. And beneath these counterbalancing elements, there are deeper levels of intricate counterbalancing elements, such as body cameras and institutional oversight that regulate police behavior so they don't abuse their own power over the average citizen. The Western NATO alliance is countered by Russia, China, North Korea, and whatever other countries forming their own alliances. And all of this leads to an extremely complex system where humanity is constantly trying to counterbalance everything against each other to ensure peace. And I'm not going to go into further details on this matter, just know that these real-world balancing shenanigans are very real and very similar to what motivates Majima. So, in Lycoris Recoil, we have the DA, which is a peacekeeping organization with power above the law, as Kusunoki herself somehow proudly claims. Maybe the Lilybells act as the counterbalance to the Lycoris, but from what we are shown, the Lycoris are authorized to execute potential criminals without fair trial or any kind of due process. They also censor information, spread propaganda, and indoctrinate children into loyal soldiers, much like a totalitarian state. Now, it's never explicitly shown whether Kusunoki and the DA abuse this level of power for themselves, but in the real world, 99% of the time, this kind of power can and will be abused by the people that wield them. So even though Kusunoki is shown as one of the good guys, more than likely, She's a real villain behind the scenes. And now we have Majima, the extremist revolutionary. Seeing that the DA's power is not being kept in check, Majima decides to counterbalance their power through attacks to expose them and the secret Lycoris agents to the public. Majima is not thinking in terms of right or wrong, good or bad, because as he said, everyone in the real world believes that they are the good guys. His goal is to simply keep the balance of power in equilibrium so no side can oppress the other. If the DA is too powerful, he fights them to counter the imbalance. If the DA is too weak against the terrorists, he helps them out. As he said to Chisato, he fights for the weaker side to balance things out. And as Majima is trying to counterbalance the DA's power, he finds his own counterbalance in Chisato, which explains his obsession with her. Deep down, he also wants to keep himself in check, as the counterbalancing element itself could become corrupted and go out of control, just like the police and institutions that are meant to protect society can become flawed. In fact, if we rewind to episode 6, he specifically called Chisato the only one that can strike a balance with me. At the time, it sounded like he was just happy to find a worthy rival, but it's actually deeper than that, because he wants her to be his counterbalance in the same way that he's the counterbalance to the DA. So we can see that there's actually a lot of similarities between what Majima is doing and the mechanics of real-world power balancing. This also explains why he didn't kill Chisato, despite having multiple chances to, such as when her heart was giving out, when she was lying face down on the ground, and when the bomb actually turned out to be a fake. Or maybe he genuinely just likes her as a frenemy, or just wanted to return the favor for not killing him when she could have earlier. Or maybe this Joker just thinks Chisato is too much fun to kill. I don't know. We don't know. Which is again why he's such an interesting character. The reasoning of many of his decisions are unclear and left open to interpretation, unlike many characters that have very clear, predictable courses of action. One moment he's throwing grenades, the next he's handing Chisato a drink. Seems very illogical, but if he's always thinking about keeping everything in perfect balance, that would seem to explain his unpredictable flip-flopping behavior. If we were to frame Majima as the protagonist rather than the antagonist, he would be very similar to characters like Light Yagami or Lelouch, who are basically people that try to change a corrupt status quo through questionable means. But because he is framed as the villain against Chisato and has creepy-ass smiles, he's seen as the villain, even though he's not necessarily a villain. So is Majima actually the hero? Well, no. But neither is he the villain. He's no pure good cinnamon roll, and he's no baby-eating demon. He is, in all aspects, quite balanced. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about my boy Majima, since he's such a cool character, who is unfortunately overshadowed by a lot of the Yuri shipping, which makes me kind of sad. I mean, sure, the shipping is cute, but there's so many amazing aspects of this show that go unappreciated or completely unnoticed that I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. Feel free to throw in your own 2 cents in the comments. Hey, you know what would be really cool? If they made a season 2 with a new villain and Majima temporarily teams up with Chisato and Takina behind the DA's back. I'm fanboying so hard right now, just imagining the character dynamics between the three. Just throwing ideas out there, but if you're listening, A1 Senpai, dude, please make it happen.